Well, today we have Ed D'Agostino from Hard Assets Alliance, and what we're going to talk about is the IRA program that is offered where you can actually buy precious metals and store them in an IRA using IRA funds. So, as a reminder to our listeners, you have until April 15th, and this year I think that falls on a Tuesday, to actually set up an IRA that is for 2013. So, anything I say here, correct me if I'm wrong, Ed, but how are you today?
I'm great, Roger, and you're doing fine so far.
Well, when it comes to calendars and taxes, boy, I tell you, the pages fly off the calendar, and sometimes you forget where you are.
Yes, I have a feeling I'll be spending my weekend doing my taxes or getting ready to do my taxes. So I know what you mean.
Well, we're already into March, and I kind of hope to do this interview a little bit earlier. And I'm so one of my concerns is the amount of time it might take to set up an IRA with Hard Assets Alliance. Do we still have time to beat that deadline comfortably?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean we've spent a lot of time working on our IRA program, fine tuning it, making it easier to use, easier to set up, and at this point, what we've done with our IRA program that's somewhat unique in the precious metal world is we've brought the custodian and the storage vendors all under one roof. So you can now just fill one application out online, and that opens up your Hard Assets Alliance account, and a copy of your application also goes over to Entrust electronically and securely. And Entrust is the group that we work with for custodian services. They then do their thing to get you set up. Some paperwork goes back and forth, but long story short, you're good to go, and you can fund your account and be buying precious metal in under 2 days through an IRA. So we've really streamlined the process.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. I don't know of too many places, even a bank, to go into the CD. I think you'd be sitting in the chair longer than 2 days. So I don't have to deal with Entrust as the custodian, really. All I have to deal with is Hard Assets Alliance. Did I hear that correctly?
You'll get a communication from Entrust, so you'll know that they're there, and I think that's good. And Entrust is one of the more well-known custodians, and they really understand self-directed IRAs, so they're great to work with. They understand our product and our services. They're okay with our storage options, which for the IRA right now you can store your metal, gold, silver, platinum, or palladium in either New York City or Salt Lake City through our relationship with Brinks. But also, and you're actually the first person I've told this, we just found out that we're going to be able to offer 1 ounce gold eagles for storage in Zurich through an IRA. And that's pretty unique. I've been working on this for months and pretty excited that we were able to make it happen um, before the 2013 contribution deadline. So for those fans of precious metal IRAs that have been looking for an option for overseas or non-US storage, we finally are able to offer that now. It's taken a long time to make sure that we were doing this right and staying within the IRA rules and regulations, but it's here. So we're excited about that. And that storage option comes through our relationship with Viamat in Zurich.
That's awesome. And then as far as you know, or do you have an actual legal opinion, does that trigger any kind of extra reporting, having those coins offshore like that?
No, no extra reporting. So it would be the same reporting that you would see with the standard IRA.
Wow, wow, that is great.
And the reason we can do it with Eagles is because Eagles are still in the US considered legal tender, technically. So, and the reason we chose Zurich is coins overseas often come with a VAT, a value added tax, and it's different by jurisdiction. But if you wanted to store coins in Singapore, for example, which is one of our popular non-IRA destinations, you'd have to pay a tax on any metal, even if you had it in storage, even if you didn't take delivery in that jurisdiction. So we didn't feel that that was an attractive option. You don't have that problem for storage in Zurich.
Excellent, excellent. Well, how about any other type of IRA fees? I mean, we're all accustomed to paying annual IRA fees, custodial fees, that kind of thing. What do we get here with Entrust?
There's a $25 fee to open the account. That goes straight to Entrust. And then there's a $100 a year maintenance fee, again, which goes right to Entrust, which from a custodian perspective, that's some of the lowest that I've ever heard of for IRA.
Yeah, especially on the opening fee. I mean, the IRA custodians a lot of times really do. Uh, the fees can add up, and that's one of the reasons why we wanted to ask and just make sure there aren't any, surprises that people might run into. And yeah, I agree. This is something that would be totally expected. Now, one of the things that a lot of people uh, are going to ask, and I know you've had the question way too many times, and so have I, but let's throw it in here just because
Mhm.
somebody might be asking. I've already got a brokerage account, IRA. Why don't I just buy some GLD and say, okay, I've got gold ownership of my IRA? What would you want to tell that person?
So, I like GLD, but only for very specific uses, and really only one use, and that's frequent trading.
Ah,
If
I agree.
if you're playing fluctuation in the market of gold price, GLD is a good tool to use. It's efficient, liquid, but if you're really trying to hedge your investment portfolio, particularly your retirement portfolio, I would argue that there are better ways to do it than GLD. And perhaps I'm somewhat biased, but I think that you should have exposure to physical metal, and that physical metal should be fully allocated to you, and it should not be owned in fractional ownership. You should own whole bars or whole coins so that you can take delivery if you need to at any time. So that's where GLD falls short. It's almost like I look at it as, would you rather own a trust that owns your house, or would you rather own the house directly? There really isn't a reason to not own physical metal, particularly when you have access to non-bank secure storage options, such as the arrangement that we have with Brinks in the US or a VMAT in Europe, and this doesn't apply to our IRA, but for our non-IRA accounts, Malka Amit in Singapore. So when you take away the storage risk, there really just is no compelling reason in my mind to own an ETF when you can own the actual physical metal and have the option of holding it in your hand at any time if you need to.
Well, and the other thing, I know a lot of people would fight with me on this and have, but GLD, there's a good chance the metal may not be there, and a cash settlement is not the same thing, and a cash settlement also requires that the party behind it actually be solvent. And while many people, especially 15 years ago, would scoff at that, we have seen so many huge names go down in flames in the last few years, uh, and starting with about 15 years ago, that I just don't think anyone can make that argument anymore. In fact, I was reminded this morning, I saw it somewhere, that just being reminded of Kramer coming out and saying, "Oh, Bear Stearns is fine. Don't take your money out of Bear." And what, the next day or 2 days later, they're up in flames.
Yeah,
And
you're talking about counterparty risk, and you're absolutely right. And I can't make a specific statement on GLD, but the fact is nobody, you just don't know. Um, and again, that's why we insist on having non-bank storage for our customers, metal, so that metal does not sit on our balance sheet. It does not sit on a bank's balance sheet. The metal is in storage in your name for you and you only, and that's important. Um, yeah, MF Global was not that long ago that a well-regarded brokerage imploded, and customers who had cash on deposit or securities lost them. And that's when you get into the nuances of uh, who actually owns a deposit. At a bank, the bank actually owns the deposit. So if you have a large amount of metal being held for you at a bank, it's sitting on the bank's balance sheet. If something happens to that bank, you're exposed. So stay away from my free tip of the day. Stay away from storing your metals at a bank. Have a solid non-bank option.
Oh, absolutely. We've written on our site a number of times why you should not store gold coins in a safe deposit box. It's again, short term. Boy, I tell you, you're okay. Maybe we won't argue it too much, but things can happen quickly, and more quickly today than ever before. When things change, and you don't want them to change at the when you happen to be in transition. So the one thing that I've found about IRAs, because I saw it in my own life at a time, is that a lot of people, especially if they are maybe a little bit younger, saving, they've got a family. It's hard to save money in shall we say a typical savings account of some type that is not encumbered by your retirement plan. This is why I'm so excited about Hard Assets Alliance offering the IRA options, because sometimes that's the only place people have money to invest. And
Absolutely.
I've seen so many times. In fact, it was about 10 years ago. I worked with a company that had like six options for their retirement plans, and a lot of the individuals had lots of money in there. And all those six options were basically the same thing. They were all US based. There was some combination of stocks, bonds, and combined. And that was it. And then there was a cash account. Well, back then the cash account paid 5-6%, but we all know those days are long gone, and who knows how long before we see them again. There was no way to hedge currency. There was no way to participate in one of the biggest bull markets we've seen in our lifetimes with gold and silver. No way to participate whatsoever. So if that's where you have your money, that's where you need to have the options. you know,
Yeah,
it's
absolutely. And to have your retirement all tied up in one broad asset class, such as securities, or to just have exposure to just the U.S. stock market is somewhat risky, I would argue. And so I think that precious metals do have a spot in retirement savings because they offer less of a correlation to the broader U.S. market. I mean, if you see you see if you follow gold prices lately, ever since the financial crisis, just how intertwined of a world we live in, and how events all the way on the other side of the world can affect our currency or other currencies. That's really why it's becoming more and more important to have exposure in your investment portfolio to precious metal.
This is something that I know people can find on your website, but would you just run down for us the any minimums that are required for the IRA accounts?
Sure. So a minimum purchase for storage in the U.S. is $5,000. So there's a $5,000 minimum, which in an IRA is typically not a big problem.
Well, no, and you want to make sure that you don't have, you wouldn't want to have a lot of small IRA accounts, because then the fees, each custodial fee from all those different accounts would kind of start to eat into your return as well. So yeah, it certainly makes sense to have $5,000 allocated, and in fact today that's what three 1 ounce gold coins.
That's sad but true. You don't get as many coins as you once did.
No, no, not at all. And if I believe I heard you say earlier that the gold isn't the only option in the IRA. There are other metals available as well.
That's right. Gold, silver, platinum, palladium. And one of the things that you need to be careful of when you invest in precious metals through an IRA is that not all metals are appropriate for being held in an IRA. So the way we protect you to make sure you don't inadvertently purchase a metal or a type of metal that can't be in an IRA is when you log onto your account and you get into your IRA account online, we only show you the options that are IRA approved. The reason why that's so important is if you purchase metal in your IRA that is not supposed to be held, say you purchase I don't know, an Austrian Corona, for example. That's not approved, or a Mexican 50 peso. Those coins are not approved for being held in an IRA. If you buy one in that IRA, you run the risk of invalidating your entire IRA. And depending on how old that IRA is, you can trigger massive tax consequences. So the best way to make sure you avoid that is to deal with a service that only shows you in your IRA the approved options. That way you don't make a fat fingered mistake that could be very costly.
And some of us have fat fingers, Ed.
Well, we're all only human. So
Well, that was actually my very next question on my list was, do you protect me from doing something stupid or something ignorant or whatever phrase you want to use, but you protect us from buying something that's not approved, so that we're always going to be compliant. I guess that's the word everybody loves is compliance. We're going to
that's
be
right.
compliant if we use the IRA service here.
Yes, that's correct.
Well, that's fantastic. Is there anything else you'd like to tell our listeners about what you're doing a little bit differently, or anything else you might have coming up, either with IRAs or with the Hard Assets Alliance for non-IRA funds?
You know what? I'm about 1 week away from releasing a new special report. So if people follow your link back to our site through yours, in about a week's time, they'll be able to download a new special report on owning precious metal through your IRA, and it will give a little more detail on how our service works and how it's differentiated from other services. So it would be worth checking back in. I wish it was ready now, but I'm fairly demanding on our editorial content, and so I've sent it back to be revised a couple of times. But we're just about there. Other than that, just to reiterate that we now are able to offer non-US storage through our partnership with uh, VMAT in Zurich. And so in your IRA, you can now hold 1 ounce gold American Eagles for non-US storage, which is pretty exciting.
Well, that is excellent. I really appreciate your time today, Ed. And as you mentioned, I will have some links in the description of the video. I may even try to get some of those nifty annotations right on the screen. You can click on that, and you can find out more information about having an IRA at the Hard Assets Alliance and get this new free report when it's available here in maybe just a few days from the time I get this all edited and uploaded.
Sounds great, Roger. It's always a pleasure speaking with you. I appreciate the support.
Well, thank you, Ed.